Have you with us on Air Talk? Hopefully you caught at least a portion of our conversation in the last segment with the president of Prime Healthcare, Mike Sarian. They're a for-profit operator for hospitals, and they're based in Ontario in the Inland Empire. Yesterday they pulled the plug on what was a tentative deal to buy 6 California hospitals from a Catholic nonprofit, the Daughters of Charity Health System. So the question is, were the conditions that the Attorney General, Kamala Harris, set, were they too stringent for Prime or any other operator to be able to adhere to? 10 years of providing essentially the same level of services at 5 of those 6 hospitals. And is that really why Prime pulled the plug, as the president of the company said? Or is this something that's just a matter of the right operator who would be able to do it and to keep things going as they are currently, but find better ways of doing it than the nonprofit that is losing $10 million a month? With us to talk about this from the consumer standpoint, Jamie Court. He's the president of ConsumerWatchdog, which is based in Santa Monica. Jamie, good to have you with us again.
Good to be back, Larry.
So do you buy what we heard from Mike Sarian, that there was just no way to meet these conditions?
Well, I think the 10 years is a reasonable condition, but it's not reasonable when you say for 10 years you have to maintain all services that currently exist at all the hospitals that are now going bankrupt. I mean, so I do think they were too onerous, and the nurses who rallied for the deal, and I was in favor of it because we want to keep these hospitals open, really, I think, feel the same way, that there should be some flexibility. Not that there shouldn't be stringent conditions, but the two things that were really difficult were to say, yeah, maybe the hospital should stay open for 10 years, but you need to be able to fiddle with services in order to make it work. And then the second condition that seemed onerous to me watching the insurance industry was there wasn't an ability to renegotiate insurance contracts, and sometimes the reason hospitals go under is insurance contracts are locked in. That seemed to me to be too much. I just wish, and I still hope, that there is some flexibility in the Attorney General's office, because I think, based on the letters I've seen that were made public by the San Francisco Business Journal that went back and forth, they were pretty close on a deal. And I hope we can get there, because these hospitals need to stay open. I know that's why the nurses are rallying for them, and that's why we want them. We want there to be this deal. If there were another buyer, that would be a different story, but it doesn't appear to be that there is another legitimate buyer out there.
It's interesting because you got unions that are in conflict. California Nurses Association really wanted to see the deal with Prime go through. They have employees at these hospitals. They didn't want to see them go through bankruptcy or be closed. But on the other side, you had the very powerful SEIU, Service Employees International Union, and they put a lot of lobbying muscle behind trying to break up the deal with Prime. I guess Prime wouldn't agree to unionize all the workers under SEIU. So SEIU got the Attorney General's office and Democratic politicians to support putting terms and conditions on them. And, I mean, do you think that in this case that SEIU was looking out for the users of the hospital, or just for their membership?
Well, I mean, I think I with some other journalists had some very inside information about when Prime wouldn't sign a deal that virtually every other hospital signed with SEIU. The head of the union of UHW, United Healthcare Workers, said, we're going to isolate them, make them a pariah. I think this is clearly a vendetta by that union. But what surprises me a little bit is that the Attorney General's, after the back out, it's gotten very ugly, and the Attorney General then kind of, rather than exhibiting flexibility, issued that statement saying, well, Prime hasn't been dealing in good faith. And that kind of got a little ugly. In fact, Chris Rober at the San Francisco Business Journal, who's just a guy who's been covering this beat for 20 years, said he got a call from the AG's office after he wrote a story publishing some letters from Prime about how close they were. And he said, I got a call from the AG. It's on Twitter, his tweet, that and they said I was going soft on CNA. So I guess I'm just concerned it's gotten so politicized, because I do feel like we were at a moment where the Attorney General was willing to let this thing go, and that everybody seemed to realize that this was the only way to save all of these hospitals. Now, maybe there is a way to save some of them, but I don't think there's any way to save all of them. And if there could be some flexibility and a little backing off of the politics here, and what really changed everything, unfortunately, for worse, clearly, was that the Attorney General entered the senatorial race. And once you do that, you don't want to have closed hospitals on your hands. So if a buyer backs out, then you shoot back with, hey, it's their fault that they're not buying, so you don't become a Senate candidate in 2 years, and these hospitals have closed, and the candidate opposing you blames you. I mean, we've gotten too politicized. I think really people in these community, nurses, even many members of SEIU who wrote separately to the AG saying, we're not with UHW, we want these hospitals open, we think this is the only deal, want to keep the hospitals open. So I kind of feel like there is a moment here to maybe pull back a little and say, wait a second, we're talking about people's emergency rooms, we're talking about critical care. Yes, the AG is right to put strong conditions. Yes, 10 years may be the right number, but you can't tell a buyer that they have to keep running a hospital the way the last buyer was running it if that last buyer is going bankrupt. And I feel like that's what these conditions did.
Jamie Court with us from the nonprofit ConsumerWatchdog. We're talking with him about the issues raised with yesterday's withdrawal by Prime Healthcare from its agreement to purchase 6 hospitals losing money operated by the nonprofit Daughters of Charity Catholic Health System. My question is, what are the political repercussions potentially going to be if heaven forbid, if the hospitals close? The opponents of Kamala Harris in the Senate race are clearly going to lay this at her feet in attack ads. And I'm a little surprised. We invited her to come on the show today and to talk about it and to get out somewhat in front of this. And the office declined. She didn't come on. We asked SEIU to come on and to talk about the reasons why it fought so hard against Prime getting the deal to buy the hospitals, and they declined joining us as well. So I welcome Air Talk listeners. If you want to weigh in on this, what you think about it, what you think a good resolution would be, you can comment on the Air Talk page, kpcc.org, or you can call us at 866-893-KPCC, 866-893-5722, or the Air Talk page, kpcc.org. George in Arcadia, welcome.
Thank you. I just had a quick comment. I'm a physician who does frequent several of the hospitals in the area, and I will say that from what I have seen firsthand, there is a lot of difference between running a good business and providing kind of standard good care. Unfortunately, the way things are trying to be measured with quality and cost, the way that you code and document can really skew things. And I suspect that there may be more going on to the deal than otherwise, just because I really do see a lot of dubious things going on at the hospital. So I'm just wondering if that may have an effect as well.
Okay, I'm not sure I'm following exactly, but I appreciate the call. All right, 866-893-5722, 866-893-5722, the Air Talk page, kpcc.org, where you can share your comments. Jamie Court, there may well be other things here, particularly since there was such a lag time between the AG issuing the requirements and then Prime pulling the plug on it.
Well, I mean, there's like 300 pages of requirements, but I'm sure there was a lot of back and forth. And the letters that were made public by Prime to the Business Journal, show that they were getting close. Those were the sticking points, like how many services you maintain for 10 years. And I know this reimbursement issue was a big issue with the insurance companies, but the reason, Harris has been particularly hard on Prime. In fact, she shut down another deal because of allegations of billing or overbilling Medicare or misbilling Medicare. But the real problem she faces now, particularly if she's a senatorial candidate, is if someone else steps up, and I think you alluded to this, does she put these same conditions on them? Because I don't know that, 300 pages of conditions when hospitals are about to go in bankruptcy, it wasn't like there are a lot of people ready to buy these. And so I think she faces a real problem, and maybe the fact that she doesn't have an opponent in the Senate race, and it makes it a little less of a problem for her. But I do feel like, and I've respected her over her term. I think highly of this Attorney General. I think this is the first trouble she's actually gotten into in her administration. And the last day, to be reflexive and then just to play the blame game, or to even, through this one Twitter post by this reporter, tell a reporter, particularly not for a major publication, that you're going soft on the nurses, or to have one of your press flags. That suggests that she is very concerned. And if she's very concerned, what I suggest she do is back up a little bit, have a little calmer heads prevail and see if we can get this thing done, because it just doesn't seem like there's enough difference that these hospitals can't stay open. I mean, I really feel like if you listen to the hearings, and we're at the hearings in the community, there was really a very large sentiment that that the deal should go through because this was the only way to save the hospitals.
Let me share a comment. Michael in the city of Orange says, kind of sounds like SEIU is the hard case, or the kind of the bad guys here. If the union had gone to Kamala Harris in any way over this puts a black eye on her for me. I would definitely think twice about voting for her as a senator. That's Michael in Orange, writing on the Air Talk page, kpcc.org. And again, just as I said earlier, we invited her to come on. A little surprised wouldn't take the opportunity to really, lay this out there. So you can share your comments on the Air Talk page, kpcc.org. SEIU also declined to come on and to talk about that.